Bonjour.
Good morning, everyone. It's a great honor to have us with us today. And it's also with great pleasure that I would like to welcome to our stage His Excellency Mr. Ousmane Sonko, Prime Minister of the Republic of Senegal. Prime Minister Sonko embodies a remarkable combination of public service, legal rigor, and bold political leadership. A graduate of Senegal's National School of Administration, he has long been committed to building institutions rooted in transparency and accountability. As the founder of the political party PASTEF, and now as Prime Minister, he represents a new era in Senegalese politics, one marked by a strong focus on youth empowerment and economic transformation. In a constantly evolving global context, Senegal is pursuing an ambitious reform agenda centered on resilience in the face of environmental and social challenges, education, skills development, digital transformation, without forgetting job creation, especially for young people, because we know that they make up a majority of the population in Senegal. At the same time, Senegal is redefining its international partnerships with a vision grounded in mutual respect, equity, and regional cooperation, especially through its support for the African Continental Free Trade Area. We are truly honored by your presence with us today, and we look forward to hearing your insights on the opportunities shaping the future of Senegal, the region, but also beyond. I would like to ask you a first question, Prime Minister. Your government, which emerged from a democratic change in leadership that is hailed as an example in Africa, has launched Senegal Vision 2050, backed by a national transformation agenda and implemented through a national development strategy. Can you highlight the key components of this new vision and its expected impact on Senegal's development? Thank you very much, Mr. Brabeck. First and foremost, I would like to thank the Chinese authorities. Thank you very much for this invitation, and thank you to the organizers. Thank you for giving us the floor to talk to you about Africa's concerns and Senegal's concerns in particular. Now, you've raised an important question. Senegal has seen the arrival of a new government a few months ago, well, close to a year now. And ever since we came to power, we've been working under the instructions of our president, Bassirou Diomaye Faye. We now have a vision which is called Senegal Vision 2050 for the 25 years to come. It is made up of a global vision, also a 10-year program, and also a 15-year program. The question that you are raising concerning this national transformation agenda hinges on four major priorities. The first one is the construction of a robust economy. It has to be resilient. We also have to focus on a certain number of products and economic sectors. We want to increase the level of production in these different sectors, but we also want to diversify our products to cover the entire value chain. And of course, this involves a very ambitious industrial policy. And then we have to focus on human capital. This is one of the major problems in Africa and Senegal, more specifically. Now, we have high-quality human resources, generally speaking, but we know that there are some countries that have developed more than others by focusing on human resources without having access to a lot of natural resources. But no country can actually develop despite having natural resources without developing its human resources, its human capital. You know that the world today is evolving very quickly, especially with new technologies, and we really have to focus on social fairness, social equity, and really promote our human capital. The third priority has to do with our reform program, with an urbanization package, and we will focus on 8 priorities in this area. And then we have to talk about a positive governance. We know that in many cases there are problems in terms of corruption, and we know that this is a real scourge, not only for Africa, it's a global phenomenon. And we know that it's also a major problem in countries with economic difficulties. And we really have to fight against corruption and focus on governance. So these are our priorities. This is what we are currently working on with our new program. Thank you very much. In this vision for the development of Senegal, there's a national roadmap which involves boosting the private sector. And this is a part of Senegal Vision 2050. To this end, Senegal has a major comparative advantages in West Africa in general. And this makes it possible to attract foreign direct investments to your country. Now, to build on these advantages, what major reforms do you plan to launch to further enhance Senegal's business environment and competitiveness? As you pointed out, Senegal has major assets. True assets in West Africa, of course, but also in Africa, generally speaking. This is the reason why we are able to attract a lot of foreign direct investments. And we're part of the top 5 countries in Africa attracting direct investment. Now, of course, this is because of our situation in the supply chain. Senegal is only 7 hours away by plane from the United States. We're also closer to Europe, and we're also quite closer to part of Asia, the Gulf countries. But of course, we have very strong ties with the rest of Africa. And our country also knows a political stability. We've never had any political coup with non-democratic tools. And we've always had a democratic transition. So a very strong political stability. Also, safety and security. You know that in Africa, unfortunately, there's a real crisis in terms of security. It's not the case in Senegal. We have a relatively young population, as it is often the case in Africa. And we have a population of people under 35 who make up close to 60% of the population. And of course, these are major assets. So we have tangible assets. So you know that we've discovered a lot of natural resources in Senegal. What I would like to tell investors that investing in Senegal is not something adventurous. We have major assets. In addition to what I've just mentioned, is that our country is predictable and transparent. And this is what we have to offer today. We have a stable framework. We can still further improve it. We're going to launch a reform package. We've already started with tax reforms, customs reforms. We also have to focus on the environment with reforms of the investment code, which is underway. And we're also envisaging reforming the oil and gas sector. So we have a whole reform package that will support Senegal Vision 2050, because we want to make Senegal even more attractive. We want to help our investors. We're waiting for them. We're ready to welcome them. And we know that there are a lot of new investors who are considering investing in Senegal, and we would like to greet them with open arms. You know that the market is not limited to Senegal. It's a much wider market. Senegal is part of West Africa. You know that you will have access to a market of 400 million people, especially through ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States. So this is extremely important for foreign investors. Thank you very much. Now, these reforms are extremely important. This is what you call virtuous governance. This is something that you are trying to further strengthen. And we know that you have a lot of advantages, a very stable environment. But we shouldn't forget about demographics. You know that the young people guarantee an access to a very wide market. And then you have a lot of advantages from a geographical point of view. From Dakar to the Middle East, it only takes 7 hours to fly to Latin America. So from a geographical point of view, you have a lot to offer. If you consider the current situation with these reform packages, what are the challenges that your government are currently facing in implementing Senegal's national transformation agenda? What are the main stumbling blocks or the main challenges? What is your perception? First of all, I would like to come back to this notion of virtuous governance. This is extremely important. And those of you who followed our political struggle, the political struggle of our party with the president, myself, and our entire team, you know that this has always been our one priority: governance, positive governance. And we're currently implementing a certain number of measures, because we have to hold former politicians accountable. And we also have to focus on our own responsibility to make sure that some things will not repeat in Senegal today. Now, you've been talking about obstacles, about challenges. One of the main challenges is our legacy. You know that when we arrived, President Diomaye Faye tried to take stock of the situation. We carried out a financial audit of the national financial situation. And unfortunately, the outcome of this audit was quite worrying, with a huge debt, close to 74%. And when we finished the audit, we had a debt that was close to 100%. The deficit, 4.5%, and then exceeded 14%. You know that this is something that we did deliberately, carrying out this audit. And we decided to reveal the outcome of this audit. We didn't have to, because I know that this can be quite scary for our multilateral partners, the International Monetary Fund. It can also scare the markets, but we decided to tell the truth. And this is completely in line with your policy, which is based on transparency, because that's how you build trust. Exactly. This is absolutely essential for us. In our relationship with our partners, we have to renew this trust. Because not every country decided to privilege this approach. We decided to tell the truth. And maybe in the future, other countries will do the same. So just to tell you that we have this legacy, a difficult situation, and this means that we have to adjust our measures. We shouldn't resort to austerity, of course, but we really have to attract investors. And this is a real challenge. This is a constant challenge for us. We're currently working on a new program with the International Monetary Fund. We know that there is a growing interest in Senegal. We're attracting a lot of investors, but we are trying to speed up this process. We want Senegal and all of Africa, actually, to be able to accelerate the transformation process. We saw this happen in China, for example, in other Asian countries, with substantial progress made. The second challenge is one where population has to take ownership of these measures. Because, you know, it's not only about the government taking measures. The population has to take ownership of these measures. They have to understand the objectives that we've defined. And we need to be able to count on a critical mass of this population to support us. And then it's about implementing these measures. And you know, this has always been a problem in the past. The development plans have always given rise to some difficulties. And we need a robust mechanism to make sure that we are able to measure the results of our measures, of our reform package. This is what we are currently working on in order to carry out this program in a very rigorous manner. It's not about reinventing the wheel. So we have to use what works. Now, your government recently launched the Technological New Deal, aimed at positioning Senegal as a country with a modern, efficient administration that fully benefits from the digital ecosystem. Now, given the growing importance of artificial intelligence, a sector in which China is positioning itself as a major player, how can Senegal take advantage of this technological revolution? This takes us back to what you mentioned a few minutes ago. The use of technological tools that can help you implement this new program. They can also be used to reform the public sector. And maybe these tools can also help you fight against corruption, as you rightly pointed out, and focus on transparency, because we know that these are the benefits of these new technological tools, if they are used wisely. New technologies. You know that whenever you talk about development strategies, it's always a priority, whether you're talking about developed countries or developing countries. And we know that there are many different applications. Now, you talked about one possibility, for example, supporting the reform package. We can actually use the digital tools, but economy as a whole can also benefit from this. We can apply these tools to different sectors, for example, the health sector, agriculture. We know that there are huge possibilities, and the digital sector today is absolutely pivotal. With me here, I have the minister in charge of the digital transformation in Senegal, and we have a very ambitious program focusing on a certain number of priorities. First of all, we want to strengthen the cloud technology. But we also have to boost our computing power. But the notion of sovereignty is extremely important, because in Senegal we have to understand who manages our data, who manages our data centers. You know that Africa hosts 1.3% of global data centers. So the notion of sovereignty is absolutely key. And then the data, information. We have to invest in AI, in artificial intelligence. We have to use new tools, but we have to define a framework, especially to help startup companies that involve a lot of young people, because we want this to boost our economy. The third priority has to do with applications. We talked about this a minute ago. There are many applications in the field of health, in the field of agriculture, in the field of education as well. Now, we were talking about human capital. This is extremely important. And then the last priority has to do with strategic partnerships. We are in contact with a lot of strategic partners. We've been able to visit the headquarters of Alibaba, and we know that these are major players, especially in the field of artificial intelligence, new technologies, and such strategic partnerships will help us benefit from the experience gathered in more advanced countries. So this is extremely important for us, and we would like to invite all our partners to further this collaboration. Now, when talking about comparative advantages, we know that the infrastructure in Senegal is a huge asset, a huge comparative advantage if you compare this with neighboring countries, for example. I think that Senegal has a major advantage. Can you tell us a little bit more about your digital infrastructure? Are you also ahead of your neighbors in this field? Yes, if we consider infrastructures, of course, we've invested a lot in Senegal's infrastructure. But we consider that there are so many things that to do. And if we consider our Senegal Vision 2050, we have a very ambitious investment program focusing on infrastructure that grants access to major production sites, whether land access or sea access or rail access. So we have to develop our roads, our ports, and we are in the process of building 2 additional ports in addition to the one in Dakar. And we are building a deep water port in the south of Senegal, especially to strengthen our relationship with our neighboring countries, with Sierra Leone, for example. So it is important to manage some of our resources jointly. You know that we've discovered gas in Senegal. We have a lot of iron in Senegal, and we need to pool our efforts, especially in the way that we actually use and transform these raw materials. And we have to work together. We have to create true corridors to be able to cross the borders and serve all of West Africa. We also have to focus on our airports. So we have a program to strengthen our regional airports, and we want to go even further. We want to develop land, air, transportation. And we have to go beyond Senegal because we need to develop a regional approach in the field of transportation. So Senegal can act as a hub. And it is exactly the same for our digital infrastructure. Now, Senegal is ahead of its neighboring countries. For example, we have a national company, the National Telecom Company. It's present in many countries. Sierra Leone, for example, it's also present in Mali, in Guinea. So we are in ahead of these countries, but we are lagging behind other developed countries, and we have to catch up. So time is flying. Unfortunately, I have one last question. Prime Minister, in light of the current geopolitical context marked by intensifying conflicts, including in Africa, climate change, now breaches of WTO rules and multilateralism, as well as global governance system shaped by a post-World War II order, how do you view Africa's development process, which is lagging behind structurally despite the continent's wealth and its comparative advantages in terms of natural resources and demographics? Can you tell us a little bit more about the situation in Africa as a whole? We like talking about Africa as a whole because we truly believe in Africa. So we have to overcome borders. But Africa is characterized by different situations. It's not one country. We have 53 countries with their own specificities. So we cannot actually consider that we can speak with one single voice in Africa. This is something that we have to take into account. There are local, there are regional specificities. Now, West Africa is a sub-region with ECOWAS, and unfortunately, some countries have left ECOWAS, but we know that we cover the surface of 6.5 million square kilometers, and we have access to a lot of natural resources. It's also the case for Southern Africa, for Northern Africa, for East Africa. And you know that there's this theory of concentric circles that helps us create these models based on the subregions and then bringing together these subregions together. I think that this is very important, to start at regional level and then bringing together these different regional policies. Now, I've been talking about this for many years now. You know that many powers have risen, have fallen. We know that this can give rise to a lot of economic wars as we can see today with tariffs. And we know that this is a real concern. Now, Africa has to be able to position itself to capitalize on this situation. As the Chinese premier pointed out earlier, the world has to envisage other growth avenues. You know that we have to consider intangible growth, for example, using new forms of technology, the digital sector, but we also have to focus on the tangible economy with agriculture, the mining industry, and so on. We know that the digital economy today plays a pivotal role, and we know that this has given way to fierce competition between major powers. And then from a geographical point of view, we really have to promote Africa because this is the only continent in the world where everything needs to be built. We know that there are huge opportunities in Africa. From an industrial point of view, Africa will account for 25% of the population by 2050. This is a huge market. And I think that beyond the challenges that we are faced with, especially in terms of political stability, security, it is extremely important for the world to understand that you need to focus on Africa today. We know that there are some countries that are more ready than others. It is the case for Senegal because we can offer many guarantees to investors, but we're not the only country. This is the message that we want to convey. And a lot of work has to be done by we as Africans. And we have to provide all the necessary guarantees. We have to convince investors to come and invest in Africa in order to accelerate our development cycle. So we have to be able to give and take at the same time. And we are fully aware of this in Senegal. This is the message that we would like to convey to all our brothers and sisters in Africa. We have to start working ourselves to offer a framework that will be conducive to more investments. I think that all the conditions are met today to turn Senegal into an African hub. So we invite all the investors taking part in this forum to come and invest in Senegal. And we're going to organize a forum on the 7th and 8th of October to attract investors. And we will showcase all the opportunities made available to them in Senegal. Prime Minister, thank you so much for this positive outlook on Africa. You know that in a past life I was an investor myself, and I can guarantee that our investments in Africa have always been extremely profitable and efficient. So thank you so much for your presentation. I'm sure that you will be able to attract many investors. Thank you.
Merci pour la qualité des questions.